Coming at you live with your boy Big Buck from the 985 to the 601, coming to teach you what we know. It's another edition of Buck Bites, and today we're going to talk about jobs. Yeah, I said it, J-O-B. Go ahead and get you an application, because that's what you need to fill out. Sign on the dotted line. Go ahead and get the pens and click. My boy Peyton Prescott, he said he wanted to hear Big Buck talk about his first job experience and his first job ever. So here it is, really, y'all. If a lot of y'all know, Big Buck always say from the 985 to the 601, and a lot of y'all might not know what that is. Y'all don't know what the 985 is, but it's Kentwood, K-Town bound and down. You know, hey, I ain't gonna do it for them. But no, Kentwood, in the small town of Kentwood, you know, everybody knows everybody, but there really isn't a lot of jobs that you can work at during high school because, you know, you're in high school. So there's only a few jobs that you could probably actually work, like maybe like after school and kind of get enough hours to make a little decent check, you know what I mean? Until you at the summertime or holiday break. Well, luckily, I can remember. I remember it just like yesterday. It's like back in the fall of 15. I just was like, man, I'm ready to get a job. I'm ready to get some money for myself, you know, stop asking my mom for this and that, even though I had a little bit of money of my own from selling candy and such. But it was just, I needed my own money, you know what I mean? I needed my own guap. So I'll never forget, I was just like, man, where will I work? Where will I work? Well, in the small town of Kentwood, you got a few options. You got Sonic, where every high school will work. You got AutoZone, you got Sunflower, you got Shillings Drugs, you got Pizza Shack, and another infamous job that everyone knows, but I'm going to talk about the most today, the Kentwood Co-Op. Bam! The Co-Op. Yes, indeed. That Co-Op is something, I tell you. It's something. I remember that day whenever I was just trying to find a job. Really, I was just job hunting, job searching. I think I parked my car right at Shillings Drugs, and I literally just went into, like, I just walked. Got me some exercise while I was going to get applying for jobs as well. So I was just really just walking down Main Street, walking down the street, just trying to find a place that would hire me or let me fill out an application so that I could work, you know, after school. Well, I finally summed up on the Kentwood Co-op, and that was the place. That was my first job. It was my first job ever, and I tell you, it was very new to me. I had never really done any type of farm life work, even though, you know, I live in the country, but never did any farm lifestyle work. I got a lot of farmer friends that got chickens, cows, horses, pigs, goats, sheep, etc., you know. But Big Buck, I ain't never do none of that. I never forget, I think it was about the fourth grade, I was over at Frank Fowler's house. And old Frank come wake me up at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. He said, Aaron, he said, wake up, wake up. I said, what's going on, man? He said, you want to go help me wrangle these cows up? I said, nah, dog, I ain't trying to do that. Not at no 2, 3 in the morning. Big Buck trying to catch his Z's, man. I had to go to sleep. But hey, Frank was used to that. That's something that you have to do being a farm country boy, you know, in the small town of Kentwood. And I'm sure for all the other people listening, you know, if you own a farm, wherever you at, you know, that's some things that you have to do. You got to wrangle the cows up, pigs, sheep, goats, whatever. Whatever gets out, you got to go wrangle them back up, get them back in the pen. But I'll never forget that. I told Frank, nah, that's a big negative, sir. Negative, Ghost Rider. Well, it was so funny. But back to the co-op. I had never done any type of farm work like that before. And I'll never forget when I first went in, I spoke to Floyd Fowler and Bubba Huckabee, and I never forget when I first walked in, I got my application, and then maybe like a week or two later, after they done a whole little summarizing over my application and everything, Floyd knew who I was. Oh, shout out to Floyd Fowler, and as well as Bubba Huckabee for giving me my job opportunity. Indeed, indeed. I appreciate y'all, because it was definitely a fun time. I know there was a lot of stressful times for y'all because, I mean, there were so many things to go on. You lost employees, and there was times where a lot of feed orders was stacked to the high, and you just didn't know what you was going to do and how you was going to do it. There was some times where it was raining and it just it sucked. Yeah. So I understand. Whatever job you start off with, the first couple of weeks as well as months, it's kind of a little shaky because you don't know what you're doing and you're still trying to get adjusted and adapted to the work area and the work method. At this job, I was waking up at like 6:15, 6:30, eating a sausage biscuit and a bowl of cereal or something just to tide me over to lunchtime. And we worked, basically clocked in at 7 and worked till 5 every day. And so when I first got there, I remember the first day, I never forget Floyd introduced me to Leslie McKenzie, but it really didn't have to introduce me because I've known Leslie all my life. I remember when I first started, Floyd had he said, "Hey Buck," he said, "Go on over there and talk to Leslie. Leslie will show you what you got to do for the day." And sure enough, Leslie found me before I found him. And if any of y'all know Leslie McKenzie, he walked like this. Leslie be walking, he be strutting his stuff, but hey, he be cutting up. Old Leslie. Shout out to old Leslie McKenzie. He a good supervisor. He running that thing over there at the co-op. But no, I'll never forget Leslie. One of the first jobs he gave me, he told me, he said, stack these good pallets over all over here in this one pile and stack all the bad pallets that you see over in this bad pile. And sure enough, I was just like, man, thinking to myself, man, this ain't gonna cut it. And I was like, they was telling me they was paying 7 1/4. I was like, so I'm stacking dirty old, muddy old pallets for 7 1/4. I was like, oh, I don't know if this gonna cut it. I think I did that for about 30 minutes to an hour. Finishing, and I found him, and I said, all right, well, what's to do next? I think it was probably, like I said, started work at 7 o'clock, so it must have been about like 8:30, almost maybe 9 or so, before I even got done, And then sure enough, who comes up on the forklift bringing more pallets? BJ McDaniel. He driving. He just driving, because, if you ever been to the co-op, them roads is bumpy, and BJ, being BJ McDaniel, he just driving how he drive. Ain't his fault. Barry did as best he could. Well, it's so funny. BJ come and brought me a whole nother stack, and then he went off to do whatever he had to do, whatever he was tasked with that day. But I'll never forget, I was just like, well, hopefully they got more job tasks than just stacking pallets every day, because I really want to do more than that. I was playing football and everything, and so I was just like, man, I'm just building my muscle up, kind of get more swole, but I ain't trying to stack pallets every day. That wasn't fun. But like I said, with each job that you go to, it kind of, you get to learn a little bit more the longer you stay there, and you adapt and adjust to things. And I finally got to see what the actual co-op did, and how they, I guess you could say, that how they thrived and how they made their money. We bagged feed. We would bag feed for our customers. The co-op saying is, your co-op servicing your needs. So we would have so many orders from Amite County ox feed, Wilkerson County, Tylertown, Pike County. It was so many. I mean, as well as there was sometimes we were just bagging feed for ourselves, just to continue to stock our supply. We would have 12%, 14%, 10%. We would have goat feed, calf feed. We would have horse feed, dog food, cat food, fish food. We'd have parrot, cockatoo, cockatiel. We had a whole freezer room, just to keep cold stuff in, just only cold stuff. We sold so much stuff there. We sold wood posts, T-posts. We sold hog fences, horse fence, cattle fence. We sold 16-inch foot gates, 15, 10, 15, 12. Sold some cow chutes and horse chutes. There were so many things we sold there besides just feed. And if you don't know what a co-op is, it's basically like a Tractor Supply, but it was in our small town of Kentwood Co-op. It's just basically a feed store that will service all your needs. That has everything, for the most part, has everything that you need. And we didn't just have feed, like I said, we we had all types of outdoor materials that you could use to build fence and, keep your pigs, your dogs, whatever you was trying to fence in or you was trying to build. For the most part, we had it. there were some times where we would have to bag the feed with a metal scoop, or we would use a shovel. So sometimes we would get these orders, say like we'd have 5 tons to come off the truck. And so sometimes if it was raining, sometimes we'd have to hurry up and get on the truck and try to poke the feed out to make it run through the machine and before it get clogged up, because you know how sometimes things in a tight space want to get jammed up and clogged together, and you have to unclog it. Well, sometimes we'd have 5, 8, 10, maybe sometimes 12 tons, and it was only 5 of us working. It was when I first started, it was only 5 of us working. It was me, Scott, Thomas, Paul, and Super D. And those were the 5 people that was working up front with me. And oh man, let me tell you, that was a crew right there. They was about to give me a run for my money, I tell you that. As I said, it was only 5 of us working up there, and I tell you, it got pretty hectic sometimes, because the job itself, it was not hard, but like I said, with anything, it kind of, you got to get adjusted to it and equipped, you know. So basically, whenever it was coming off the truck, all we would do is put a bag on it, make sure it weighed 50 pounds, sew it up, stack it, stack 5 bags on each side, stack it all the way 8 high. So you got 40 bags on each pallet, make a ton. Well, sometimes we'd have to we'd get these big old plastic bags, and we call them super bags, and you'd have to, like I said, either get it with a metal scoop or with a shovel, and you would just have to scoop it, and then you have to put it on the scale, see if it's 50 pounds, or if you didn't do that, you would just have to guesstimate. But for the most part, you know, you always use the scale. Have to store that in our warehouse, but our warehouse was already full. We had, like I said, we had so many things that we were selling, and sometimes we were running out of space, you know. But at the same time, there were some days where customers would come in and want 10 tons of corn, or they would want 6 tons of cow feed. But then, not alone, when we are selling that much, we have to restock that. And we didn't restock it from getting it from some other vendor. We made that. We made all that feed. So our blood, sweat, and tears went into that feed, you know, making it and trying to make sure that we had feed up to date for our customers, you know. And I'll never forget, I just was like, man, there got to be a better system, got to be a better way. And then you might say, what you mean, Buck? Well, like I said, we started out with 5 people every morning, about 7 o'clock, right in the warehouse. Well, sometimes Floyd or Bubba would come to that door and they say, oh, I need you to go work down there with Johnny, or I need you to go there and work with Mark at the shop, or so-and-so, you know. There would be so many people, so many times that there was some task that somebody would get taken away from to go on a feed delivery or just go help somebody else around the area. And that 5 workers that you started off with would come down to 2. I'll never forget one day, oh, rest in peace to Paul Nicholson, man. Paul, me and Paul, we had some good times together. I gave Paul one of the funniest nicknames I'll never forget. Paul 56 with arthritis in his hip. That was my dog. Paul would be like, he'd be smoking his cigarette. He said, Buck, I ain't doing all this feed by myself today. And I was like, come on, Paul, we got to get it done before lunchtime. Sure enough, Paul said, we probably going to run about 2 more tons, but we going to wait on somebody else to come back, because it don't make no sense for 2 people to be working. And I was like, all right, Paul, I understand. Because like I said, I was young. I wasn't running the show. I said, you've been here a long time, so you know what you're doing. I was like, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do what I can. That's all I can do. And sure enough, Paul go over there. I had started working a little bit. Paul gonna go over there and read the paper. Read the paper. I said, Paul, you can't be reading the paper on the job. This ain't your lunch break. He said, watch me. Paul sure enough read that. He read that paper. I don't know what all he was reading, but he was reading it, man. I tell you. He said he got to get his information for the day. He said he ain't worried about the Kentwood Co-op. He said, I'll attend to that later. Well, I'll never forget, there was a lot of days, you know, besides just bagging feed and bagging corn, there were some times where customers would come in, you know, like a Tractor Supply or any other store at Walmart, Dollar General, Family Dollar, you know, usually you would get a receipt for what you had bought. Well, a lot of the customers at the co-op would come to us in the warehouse and say, hey, I got this ticket. And then on that ticket, it'd say, I want 10 bags of this, 12 bags of that, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, I started this job probably my junior year fall of my junior year of high school, and I worked there for 3.5 years. Started out 7.25, and thankfully I'm not making that no more. Thankfully I'm making more. I'll never forget, there was this dude. It seemed like every Wednesday, every Thursday, this dude from the Tangipahoa store would always come up to the co-op. And I used to get out of school around like 12 o'clock, 12:30. And so it seemed like every time I pulled up, that's like right when he was there. So sure enough, so I done clocked in and I just started go ahead and get my workout in for the day. So sure enough, did the guy come up to me with a ticket? He said, all right, I want 20 bags of cow feed. I want 40 bags of horse feed. I want 60 bags of corn. I want 10 bags of medicated chicken feed. I want 10 bags of non-medicated chicken feed. I'm just like, good gosh, this man got a lot of money. And he got that's a lot of stuff, And sometimes the only way we really had to transport stuff was dollies, because sometimes our forklift drivers was occupied helping somebody else putting super bags or stacking hay or something, putting some type of metal gate or maybe some wood post or maybe some cement blocks. There were so many things that everyone was doing, because I think back at that time the co-op probably only had maybe 75, maybe 80 employees total, So we were very like short-staffed for the most part. But like the thing was, I mean, that sounds like a lot of people, but really it isn't, because when there's so many things going on, you got so many people in different areas working, as well as everyone's working together. But hey, you can only do what you can do, and you just got to get through. Remember that. Do what you can do and go ahead and get through. That's all you can do. But I tell you, there were some days where I'd be stacking all that man's feed from on them dollies all the way to his truck. And he didn't have the best truck. Nothing was wrong with it, but I don't think it was the best truck to really be trying to stack all this feed in, As my buddies in CWA, they say, pull up, what move? Pull up, what move? And they be tooted up when they was leaving the co-op. They be sometimes be scraping, they be low, like a low rider. Because they had so much feed, as well as wood posts, T-posts, cement blocks, some people would have salt bricks. Man, please, I didn't even know about all these salt bricks. They had the red. They had so many different colors of salt bricks for different things, for cows, horses, etc., that they like to lick. And I was just like, hey, you taught me something new. That's one thing that the co-op did do. I learned a lot about, farming lifestyle, as well as pricing, and like what to feed farm animals, and how much to usually give them. You really shouldn't overfeed any animal, as well as shouldn't overfeed yourself, be gluttonous and whatnot, as well as, a lot of people always try to say, oh, stay healthy, stay hydrated, drink a lot of water, but you can overhydrate yourself. So you always got to be careful of that, as well as you are with your animals. You got to watch what you're feeding, because sometimes feeding them too much of this and that could make them sick, or could make them like gain too much weight and make them unhealthy. Well, we had some more people to tell you some more stories about the co-op. I know we had this one dude named Thomas. Oh man, Thomas was a trip. Oh, Thomas Route. Man, I hope you're doing fine, Thomas. It's been a minute since I've seen you, but old Thomas, he liked to make some money. He was a little hustler like me. Like I told you, I sold candy in high school, and everybody knows Big Buck. He's always trying to think of some plan to make some type of money or whatever, or he's always selling something from the school or for the church, whatnot. Well, at work, Thomas was the money man. He was hustling. Thomas would be having we had a bathroom outside in the warehouse, and then we also had a little, I guess you would say, a little closet where we kept like a little refrigerator, a little mini fridge. And so that was Thomas's kitchen. Thomas have a microwave in there, had a mini fridge. Thomas be having all types of crap up in there. Thomas just be cooking. Thomas be making burgers, biscuits, grilled cheese sandwiches. Had George Foreman in there at one point, I think. But we had so much stuff. We stayed stocked, If you didn't have breakfast in the morning, Thomas hooked you up with a little something. He'd say, oh, go and give me about like $2, And hey, whatever, I mean, we stayed fed, but we got the job done, there was sometimes, customers, they would be nice enough. There were some customers that would give you a tip for loading their feed in the back of the truck. And sure enough, I'll never forget, there was this one customer that come up there like every Saturday. He would always get like 10 bags of 12% calf feed. And it was so funny. Every time when that man come up, it was about like 5 of us running just trying to get it because everybody knew that he was going to give a $5 tip. And so, hey, sometimes Thomas would be like, hey, y'all back up. That's mine. That's mine. He's like, I was like, nah, Mr. T, don't let me get it. He said, oh, I guess so. And sometimes, like I said, Bubba and Floyd, they might have came to the door where they might have said, hey, Thomas, come get this. And sure enough, Thomas would see that guy walking and he would be pulling up and Thomas would be trying to hurry up and run down there to Johnny Gyro. He'd got to go give him that paper real quick so he can come back and make that $5. Because not only are you making money on the clock, but hey, you trying to get a good tip too. Cause I mean, what job that you want to work that you servicing other people's needs where you don't want to get a tip, So me and Mr. T, Thomas, he'd always be working out with the bags. He'd be lifting up, he'd be trying to get a workout in while he at work. For the most part, every bag that we sold there was about 50 pounds, some things that we would decrease to 25 pounds if customers didn't want it in a whole 50-pound sack. They might want 10, 15, 20, 25, whatnot, So sometimes Thomas would be, after we done got done with everything, we done swept up, we done bagged all the feed for the time being, all the customers were good, they done dealt, it might just been a slow day, Thomas be over there working out with the bag. And I said, oh, big swole, big gains. Go and get it, Thomas. But those were some of the older people that I worked with, as well as the infamous Jacket Dykes, and Super D. them two right there, them my buddies right there. But those were some of the older folks that I worked with, just to name a few: Jackie, Super D, Super D, Johnny Gyro, Thomas, Tyree, Paul. I said, there's so many people that the list goes on and on. And at the time, like I said, this is my junior year of high school. So I'm like 17, getting ready to go on 18. And so I was like really the only kind of high school guy working there for the time. Everybody that was working there that was around my age had already graduated high school maybe a year or two before me, or they just probably didn't finish school or whatnot, Like I had fun with working at the co-op, like I just mentioned, a lot of the older guys as well as the younger guys that I worked with, I made tons of memories with them. As there was some times where there was this one guy named Big Sneak. I'll never forget Big Sneak. He was a pretty cool cat, but he thought that the world was flat. He was one of them guys, thought that the world was flat, still thought that we were gonna go off the edge of the world and fall off. I'm like, nah, man, that theory ain't true, man. I'm sorry to tell you, like, how you think that we get from, North America to Africa or Europe, nah, we ain't gonna fall off the edge of the earth, brother. I'm sorry to tell you, but But he was a good guy, good hard worker, There was a lot of people like that there, that had been there, working there for 10 plus years, and I credit them for that, because at the end of the day, it ain't really always about what you like. It ain't about what you want to do. It's what you got to do. I used to tell people that all the time whenever I was working there, because I remember, like I said, I worked at the co-op for 3.5 years, and I remember there was a lot of times where, like, I would miss out on some activities and stuff with my friends. They would be like, oh, Big Buck, let's go to the Tangipahoa River and, we floating the river today, or we floating the Boca Chica, or we going to play volleyball or play basketball such and such a day. You want to come, Big Buck? And I couldn't, because I had work. You put priorities first, Like I say, proper preparation prevents poor performance. They wouldn't put them 5 P's together for no reason. You hear me? They wouldn't put them 5 P's together for no reason. It's for a reason. And I tell people all the time, it ain't about what you want to do, it's what you got to do. Like I said, I worked there at the co-op for 3.5 years, started out making $7.25, left making $8.50. A lot of people always say, oh my gosh, Big Buck, there ain't no way I'd have done that. I said, man, it ain't about what you want to do, it's what you got to do. Because trust me, like I said, I worked there from leaving my junior year, going into my senior year of high school, all the way to my 2 years at Southwest. Man, I'm telling you, there was a long period of where there was times where I was like, man, this ain't gonna cut it. I'm not making enough money. I want to make more money. I need to make money. And there were some times where Bubba and Floyd was just like, nah, this ain't the right time to get no raise right now. We can't give out no raises. And I said, all right, well, just go back to work. I shake my head and go on about it. You win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day, But now I'm getting better paid. But hey, it is what it is. Because you can't just always make them $12 an hour jobs, 15, 16, sometimes $18 an hour jobs starting out, But hey, you win some, you lose some. But I tell people all the time, in life, it ain't always about what you want to do, it's what you got to do. Because when I got to community college, there were some times where I was doing 18 hours of school, doing 25 hours a week of work. And then each semester I was putting on a heavier load of myself, which some people would be like, oh, Buck, you crazy. But I was trying to get ahead and I was trying to hurry up and get out so I could be succeeding in what I wanted to do, so I could go do other things. I never forget one good funny story to tell you about trying to get ahead and about doing stuff. I'm gonna let y'all young cats know, as well as you older cats, if you don't know it by now. If you're trying to do something, if you're trying to take off, you should always let your boss know. If not a month ahead, at least 2 weeks before that event or that thing is happening. You should always let them know. So, like I said, I worked there for 3.5 years. Well, I never forget senior skip day. Senior skip day. I never forget, I was walking. I got to work that day and I was telling Leslie McKenzie, I was like, well, Mr. Leslie, I got some bad news for you. He said, oh, Aaron, well, what's wrong? What's wrong, buddy? And I was like, well, Mr. Leslie, I ain't going to be here this Friday. And he said, huh? Like, today's Tuesday. Why are you telling me about Friday? I said, well, I just wanted to let you know that the class of 2016, they've decided today, and I would have told you way beforehand, but they just told me today. And he's like, all right, so what's going on? He was like, well, senior skip day. And so he said, oh, he just about to fall out. And he said, okay, I see how it is. You want to go out and have fun while we out here at work, huh? I said, yeah, that's mainly it. Yes, sir, yeah. And so, sure enough, who comes rolling around? Floyd. Up in his truck, got his cool glasses on and everything. He takes them off and Leslie flags him down. He said, hey, Floyd, hold up. And he said, Buck got something to tell you. He ain't seen you yet. And I said, so Floyd stops and he said, morning. He said, afternoon, Aaron, what's going on? And I was like, nothing much, Floyd. How you doing, Mr. Floyd? He's like, oh, it's going good. He said, so what's this news you got to tell me? And I said, well, Mr. Floyd, I ain't going to be here this Friday. And he said, why not? And I said, well, senior skip day. And I'll never forget Floyd Fowler said, senior skip day? That's senior, he said, senior skip day, that's senior skip school, not senior skip work. And I said, all right, I'm going to tell you this now. I bet you I ain't going to be here Friday. You play with me if you want to. In my cup, and I never give it up. My boy Thomas Rao knows how to put it out. Man, I tell you, I had a lot of good fun times at the co-op, and I surely tell you one thing. I was not there. I surely was at senior skip day that day. I don't know how much work they had. Don't know. Don't really care. But I was at senior skip day. I did what I had to do. But I enjoyed my time at the co-op. It was real fun. It built a lot of work ethic in me. And to be honest, I don't know what the people are getting paid now. But I tell people all the time that is a job where I think a lot of high school kids should work, just to build character as well as a work ethic in them, because there's so many kids nowadays that aren't working, that's not trying to work, as well as some jobs really aren't paying enough money to have any sustainability. But, if you're in the small town of Kentwood or you're in Osaka or wherever, if you can find you a job, it doesn't got to be the Kentwood Co-op. I mean, that's just where Big Buck started out. But wherever it is, wherever you want to work at, if you can find you a high school job where you can get you a certain amount of hours and get a good paycheck each week or every 2 weeks, that's the main thing. Because working is good for the body and good for the soul, because it's good to build a work ethic and to get that mentality into you, so you know that you want to achieve more and succeed more and do better and grow. Because when you get to be my age, I'm 24 now, you want to be making 15, 18, if not more dollars an hour for whatever occupation that you're working at, whatever career path that you go down the line. You want to have a good resume to see and to show that you had enough work ethic, you've had enough work history to show that you will be a reliable candidate for that job, because, and that's one thing, you put those references down so that your past employers can give the new employer some insight on how your work attributes are and if they are up to par. So with all that being said, kids nowadays, y'all get out there and work, and it really ain't just kids. It's some of you grown folks, some of you grown up adults. Get out there and get a job, because you are the future of America and, the future of today, because each and every day is a new start. So whatever you didn't like about today, start over tomorrow. Continue to do better, because I'm going to tell you one thing. It's going to be rain before it comes a rainbow. It's going to be rain before sunshine. In life, you got to believe, achieve, so that you may succeed, whatever it is that you want to do in this world. Remember what I said. You got to do what you got to do to get where you got to get. It ain't always about what you want to do, but it's about what you got to do. So this has been another edition of Buck Bites. I hope you enjoyed it. Go ahead. I hope you kick back, relaxed, and go ahead and heard all of that, from the 985 to the 601, come to teach you what we know, son. And this is another edition of Buck Bites, baby. Love y'all, from the 985 to the 601.